was talking about having one ball for the front and then another ball for the other front if you've got a yarn that changes colour like this one. This is the first ball that I've been using, and so far I've done the granny square and the back extension down the bottom. That's what I've got left. And I'm going to cut off this yarn because now I'm starting my fronts. So I'm going to use this one for one front and then this ball for the other front. And you want to see if they kind of start in the same place. You can see I've got serious yarn vomit going on here. But this pretty much looks like it's starting in the same place. So what's going to happen is the stripes should go sort of in the same sequence and round about the same position, I'm hoping. This is the only thing with the colour changing yarns. On the outside they both look like the same colour. I know you can't see that, but they do. And on the inside, this is the inside part, these look like they are pretty much the same amount of yarn. I've had a look inside that one as well. So, going a bit matchy-matchy here. Got my watch that matches as well. Anyway, we won't go there. So yeah, that's what I was talking about when you want to match it up. So then what I'll do is when I start my sleeves, hopefully they will be in the same sort of position again to start the sleeves, because both fronts are even in what we crochet, and then both sleeves will be even as well. So that's the only thing about the colour changing yarns, but hopefully it'll look pretty much right. If you're not worried about where your colours change, then you won't have to worry about this part at all, but I try to make mine look about the same. The right side is facing up. If you don't have a wrong or a right side, then it won't really matter. But what you will want to do is have the bottom, so where we just did our last row, the bottom, down the bottom closest to you, and then you've got your granny square at the top there. And it says with right side of granny square facing you, so we've got that facing us because my stitch marker's there. We want to attach the yarn on the bottom right corner. So going across to the bottom right, which for me is where my yarn finished, but I'm using the Red Heart Ombre, and we were just talking, I've inserted a video clip so that we were talking about yarn management and starting so that we have the same colours on both fronts. So that's why I've cut my yarn off, and I'm going to attach this. And there will be a little note across the screen just before I said cut your yarn, in case you're using the same colour or you don't want to cut your yarn. Now on the screen now you'll see the side of one of the versions that I've done. You'll notice there is a dark blue line that goes down, and if you don't want that dark blue line, then use a different colour to the colour that you used for your granny square. I hope that makes sense. So you're going to start with a different colour, but I didn't know that because this was my test piece, and yeah. So this is my bottom right corner, and we're going to attach our yarn there. So I'm just going to twist it, grab my crochet hook, and I'm going to join it into this space here. And what we're going to do is work a chain. I'm going to do a chain 2, but you can do chain 3 or alternate double crochet. I've just left a length at the back for sewing in. So we want to do chain 2. The first one just helps you secure that down. So I actually did chain 3, but 2 of them only sit there, the other one disappears. And we want to work 2 double crochet in the same space. I'm going to work over my yarn, so I'm just going to hold like that and work 2 double crochet. And we're going to work our way across, and we're just going to continue doing 3 double crochet in each space. So we're working on the side here, but you can see we've created spaces there. And we're going to work into those spaces, and we're going to do 3 double crochets in each, and we're going to work our way across, but we want to stop when we are the armhole depth away from the end of the row. And you would have taken measurements at the beginning, but I will put the picture on the screen now so that you can see what I'm talking about. And we are going to use that measurement, which is where the green line is. You would have wrote those down on your written pattern. So we're going to measure those. We are going to crochet across until we are that length away from the end of our work. So I'm going to crochet across, and then I'm going to insert a photo so you can see it, or I may just insert some footage. I can't really show you on my where I'm filming right now because there's not a lot of space. So I normally just lay it on the ground and on the floor. So we've got lots of room and you can see what I'm talking about. So pause the video, and in the next part of the video I'll show you where I've stopped on this row. I'm just going to add this little bit in. This is the corner of the granny square where we attached our yarn. So into that space there you're just working 3 double crochet, and it's just another space, but just in case you weren't sure. And then the next space we're just working across. So my armhole depth is 9 inches. That's what I use when I make my garments. If you've made the other cardigans, you'll probably know that. If not, that's what I use when I make garments for myself. And that's in crochet or knitted, so it's just my armhole depth. So pause the video and I'll see you in a minute. So you can see from the photo that I have actually crocheted until it's 8 inches from the end. But that's because crochet stretches, and I'm thinking about 1 inch of crochet stretching, because if you go like that you can see it stretches. So about 1 inch is going to allow for the stretching, which will come to 9 inches. The original one that I made, I did make the armhole opening exactly 9 inches, but it stretched and it was too big. I can still wear it, like it's totally fine, but personally for me I would like it just a little bit smaller around the opening of the armhole. This is actually 8 inches from the end, even though I need 9 to allow for stretch. So our next part is we are creating the armhole, and it says that on the pattern in bold letters so you know where you're up to. And it asks us to chain the amount of stitches you have left on the row. So what we want to do is just pull this out so we don't lose our spot. And we're going to look at our stitches. We know we're in groups of 3, so that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 stitches. Does that make sense? If you can't count in threes, just count along. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. What you want to do is you want to write that number down. And on the written pattern there is a space for you to do that, because you've got to remember it, because you've got to recreate it on the other side. So the number was 21, and we are going to make that many chains. If you have a different amount of stitches, so let's say you have, so I had 21, you may have, say, 30 stitches across that you've got left, you're going to make that same amount of chains. So whatever you've skipped, whatever you've left, you're going to make that amount. So I have 21, so I need to make 21 chains. If you have 30 stitches, you're going to need 30 chains, or whatever your number is. Then what we're going to do is make a shell in this corner space over here, because if we look back at the beginning of our row, we started with 3 double crochets, or 3 stitches, so we want to end with 3 stitches. So into the corner space, which will now be that's the top edge of our cardigan at the moment. So we're going to work 3 stitches. It might be a bit fiddly because we've got nothing on this side. So we've done our 3 stitches, and it's going to look a little bit weird but this is going to stretch enough for the armhole opening. If you've done that really tight, maybe pull it back out and just loosen off a little bit. It needs to basically be the same size as the opening of the stitches that we've skipped. So we've done that. Now we want to turn our work. So we're going to, let me just do that first. Turn our work. Oh, there's an end. This project's getting bigger and harder to fit in camera. We're not even halfway there yet, so gosh knows how we're going to fit it in when it's big. So we've turned our work, and now we want to do chain 3, and it says now we need to replicate the stitches or groups of 3 double crochets that we skipped on the previous row when we created the armhole. Crochet the amount of shells skipped, see the previous row where you wrote down the number of stitches, and we want to double crochet into the last space. And we've now created our armhole. See that? This is our armhole. And what we want to do, see how we have skipped all these stitches here? We want to put those back in because, well, we need something to crochet into, don't we? So I skipped 21 stitches. Whatever your number is, we're going to put those in there. So basically what we are doing is recreating these shells that we've skipped here. So because we started the row, or ended the row of the previous one with 3, this one needs to be 1. Because we're still sticking with that 3, 1, 3, 1 on the end of each row. Because we are working in rows now. So what we're going to do is go into here. So this first one does not count as the first stitch of what you need to recreate, it's just the beginning. So now we're going to start our number that we need to recreate. So I need 21. So what I'm going to do is go into the space. It's a bit fiddly because there's nothing to hold on to. And I'm going to put 3 stitches. Like I was crocheting into a granny square. I'm going to skip a little tiny piece and then crochet around over this side. So it kind of looks like we're making the groups of 3 double crochets. Because when we come to our armhole and we're going to make our sleeve, you are going to need to crochet into the spaces which are here. I'm hoping this is making sense. It all makes sense when you put it all together. So see how we've got a space there and it kind of looks like a granny square, but just down here looks, with this chain, looks a bit funny. But don't worry, we crochet over that chain when we add our armhole. And it doesn't matter if you make it long sleeved or short sleeved, you could easily do it. So see how they've all gone together? That's really hard for me to see where my groups of 3 are. So I just want to grab these 3 stitches and just pull that across. See how now it's really easy to see where they are? And I've totally lost count what I'm up to, but that's okay because I can count my groups of crochet. So maybe after you do your 3 stitches, just look back and see if you need to move them. See how it's bunched up again? We'll just shift that across a bit. So I need 21, 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 15, 18. And if you've put them all close together, they're going to be all scooted up one side. So you do need to make sure you spread them out. So I'm just going to double check to make sure I've got it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep. That's right. I mean, if they move when we're crocheting, you can easily fix them when we come to the armhole. So now we're going to just crochet across like we have been doing normally. So we've got to find our next space and we're going to crochet into there. You cannot see this, but I'm having serious yarn problems off screen. So we're just going to crochet all the way across, and I will meet you, so pause the video and I'll meet you when we are up to the end of this row. So this row that we're doing now was started with 1 stitch, so we want to end it with 1 stitch. We're going to go into the last stitch and we're going to do a double crochet. So now we're going to create the shoulder. So we've just created the armhole, as you can see. If I just, for people who haven't actually crocheted along with the video, we have just created an armhole. You can see that there. So you've got a big hole on one end. This is now the top of our work, and if you've done it correctly, and I am actually checking mine as I'm talking, this will be on the granny square section that we did. If you've got it down on the straight section, if your armhole's down here, your cardigan's upside down. I'm sure that would work too, but if you want it like the written pattern or the one that I'm making, you are going to have to take it out and start again. But just that last 2 rows, I think, and you want to make sure that your granny square, so let's see if we can see this, the granny square here, can you tell that's a granny square? Pretty much. And then you've got your armhole on one side. Okay, so we have, like I said, finished with 1 stitch, and we're going to create the shoulder. Now this is going to be different for everyone because pretty much we're all different sizes, aren't we? No one was created the same. So altogether I did 7 rows. We've just completed 2, so that means I've got another 5 to go. But you can adjust this. If you're making it for yourself, you can obviously try it on, and if you don't go across enough on the shoulder, it's going to slip off when you wear it. So you could measure a top that you already have and just measure like how far across the shoulder goes so that it's going to stay on. But like I said, I did 7, and this is with a worsted weight yarn and about a 6mm crochet hook. I'll measure it after I finish so you can see in case you're using a different yarn. So what we want to do now is we are just working in rows like we did when we did the extension on the bottom. So we want to go to rows 3 and 4 from the bottom or the back extension on our pattern. And basically it's where we did 3 stitches on that row, 1 stitch on that row, and then 3 on the next. So you're going to chain 2, or what you've been doing at the beginning. So I've done my chain 2, and we're going to turn our work around. And because it had 3 stitches on that row, 1 on this row, so our next is 3, so we know we need to do 2 double crochet into that space. And we're going to work our way across, and we're going to end with 3 stitches. I'm not going to show you how to do this part because you've already done it on the bottom extension. If you're not sure, you can rewind the video or look at rows 3 and 4 on your pattern. So when we finish this section, we should be at the top of the cardigan. If you're not, just do an extra row, or if you think that's too many, you can take one out. But I just add an extra row. This is a cozy cardigan. This is not tight fitted, so if it's a little tiny bit extra, it is really not going to matter. You're going to only add maybe ½ an inch if you're using a thick yarn. Okay, so yeah, like I said, you want to finish at the top of the cardigan on the last row that you complete on this. And then the next section is going to be the decrease for the neck. Just notice as I'm crocheting across that some of my stitches shifted. That was, I've just already moved it, but that was like that. So if you're going into the spaces, you're not really doing it right if they've shifted. So what you need to do is just quickly check that you've got 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then go into that space. Because if I just continued on like it was before, it was definitely not going to be right. And again, make sure you've got 3, and then you're going into the space that's there. Just a little tip that I thought I would share because I just come across it myself. See how it just fits in like that now? And then that's keeping that separated now for when we do the sleeves. Also, when we get to the end here, this is our armhole, but when it's laying on your lap, it sits like that, and you can easily crochet across and just keep going. This is what I actually did in my original design, and got all the way to the end and went, something's not right. You want to pay attention to that to make sure it sits with the armhole like that, and then this is the edge of our cardigan. So in here we need to do 3 stitches. I think as we go along it should even out and it won't make us think that we need to crochet along down there. And then we're just continuing on with the pattern. But we've just created the armhole and set it up ready for when we do the sleeve. So as you can see from the photo on your screen, you can see that I have completed the first side, and I've also added a stitch marker, which on the screen is a pink piece of yarn tied in the corner there. You should be able to see that. I thought I'd tie just a pink piece of yarn so it stands out really well. If I'd put a little tiny stitch marker in there, then you probably wouldn't see it. So what this stitch marker is doing is marking the top of our cardigan. So this is the top edge that would say basically go around your shoulder or near your neck. And the reason I'm using this is because on the next part, when we do our decrease for our neck, we want to make sure we do our decrease part on the top of our cardigan, otherwise the bottom of our cardigan will look slanted, and we don't want the V-neck at the bottom of our cardigan. We want it at the top. So the stitch marker is just reminding us that we need to do the decreasing on that end of our work. So now we are going to do the decrease part, which is really easy. You'll be shocked how easy it is. And if you have made my corner to corner granny, there's a square version, there's also a rectangle version now, and if you look up on the right hand side, an information tab's going to pop up and that'll take you to those videos. If you've made those before, this is the same decrease method used in that. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same, but I know it's very, very similar. So if you've done that before, you'll recognize it. If not, it's really easy to do. So let's get started on the decrease. This is the top here where the pink stitch marker is. This is the shoulder that I've created, and I'm going to measure mine so you know how wide it is. It is 13 centimeters, or approximately just on 5 inches. So 5 inches or about 13 centimeters, so around there. And I have completed, I said I'd done 7 rows, which was on my other cardigan, but that I used a lot bigger crochet hook. I used an 8mm. I'm using a 6mm at the moment, so that's I think 4 sizes bigger. And it was a worsted weight yarn in the other pattern. So this one is using a smaller crochet hook, so my crochet is smaller, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. So when you count your rows, if you count this section here, it does give you 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But we can't forget the row that we did here that created our armhole. So that was our first row. So altogether, including that, I have 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you need to have a odd number of rows so that when you start the next, so when you finish that last row, you will be at the top of your cardigan. If you're not at the top of your cardigan for some reason, then just complete another row so that when we're starting the next row, we are at the top of the cardigan. We're going to make a chain 3, or you can do a chain 2, like I've been doing a chain 2, so I'm going to stick with that. But you can do a chain 3 or a, what's it called? An alternative double crochet. I couldn't think what it was called. What we need to do now is just complete the next row as normal. And I wanted to stop here and show you to add that stitch marker, because we're going to go back down and we're going to end at the bottom of our cardigan. Then we're going to come back across, but when we get back to here, this stitch marker is going to remind us to do something. So the next part of your pattern is literally just the next 2 rows of what we've been doing. So it's 3 double crochet in the next one there. And then continue across. And then work the next row, which would be row, so we got 1 stitch at the beginning here, so the next row will be 3 at the beginning. But don't complete the last part. When you come back, you're going to come back across this way. Don't complete that last part, because we've got something a little different. So pause the video and I'll see you there. I am now up to the last space, as you can see, and normally we would do 3 double crochets in that last space, wouldn't we? And the pink stitch marker here is reminding us that this is the top of our cardigan. But what we're going to do to create the decrease, we're going to work just 1 double crochet in that space there. So normally we would do 3, but we're just going to do 1. And this starts off the beginning of our decrease. So we're going to turn our work and we're going to chain 2, 3, or alternative double crochet, whatever you've been doing. And normally we would crochet into here if there was a space like that. We're going to skip that space and we're going to crochet into the next one and just work 3 double crochet. And you should be able to see almost how it's starting to create the V. See how it's slanting quite dramatically there. You can see this, the slant that is creating the V of our cardigan. So we're going to crochet all the way across, and when we get to the end of this row, it is just going to be the same. So I'm just going to grab the other end of the row. So when you come along here, and I've just noticed I put too many stitches in the end there, but I'll fix that. I'll take that out and start again. Let's pretend there's actually a 3 in the end. So what you would do, you've got your 1 stitch here, then your 3 in the end, and then you're going to do your last stitch and you're going to work your 1 double crochet. So this is the bottom edge of our cardigan where your bottom is, and that will stay the same. So the method that we've been using, doing 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, that will still continue along the bottom edge of our cardigan. I cannot believe I did 4 stitches in that. Somebody wasn't counting. Anyway, see, I do make mistakes as well. There's proof. Actually, I'm always making mistakes. It's just they get edited out quite a bit. So yeah. So like I said, the bottom edge of your cardigan is going to stay the same. It's only when we do the top edge where our neck is. So when you come to the end, you're going to do what you need to do. You're going to go back the other way, and then I'm going to meet you when we're up to that part. So pause the video now and I'll see you when we are there. We're coming to the end, which is the top, which is where our stitch marker should be, and you can see that it's slanting over, and the last space is there. So what we want to do is work 1 double crochet into that space, and by working the 1 double crochet, it's creating the decrease because we're not continuing up straight and adding all the 3 in the end and all that stuff. So it's creating it to slant, and that's creating a decrease. So we want to turn our work around, and we're going to work our chain order we've been doing at the end of the rows, and we're going to skip this space and work into the next one there. And again, we've just created another decrease, so that will continue the slant. And we're going to repeat these last 2 rows. So when we get to the other end and at the bottom of the cardigan, it's exactly the same as we've been working for the whole, basically the whole straight section of our cardigan. It's just, you know, continue with the 3, the 1, the 3, the 1 on each beginning or end of each row. It's just when we come to the end with our stitch marker, which is the top of our cardigan, that we do it differently. And we do either one double crochet in the last space, or we just do our chaining up and then skipping that part and going into the next space. It is all in the written pattern, so I do suggest that you have that handy, and that can remind you if you're not sure what to do. Now, you're going to ask me, how many rows do I do now? This will all depend on what size you're making. And what we need to do is I'm going to insert a photo of what mine looks like. And we're basically going to go across to the middle of our cardigan. So when we fold it, it's going to be, I'll show you, it'll be on the photo on the screen. So when we fold it in the front over of how a cardigan would sit, you can see that it's coming over, and we want to work almost to the middle, so almost halfway to the middle, which would be the center of your granny square, if that helps you. But we want to leave a couple of inches to put our ribbing on that's going to work all the way around our cardigan. So depending on how much ribbing you want or how big you need the front of your cardigan, you can add more or less. You could sew up the shoulders now, and that will give you an idea on where it's going to sit. If not, when you try it on, because the shoulders aren't sewn up at the moment, it's not going to sit properly. You could just use a scrap piece of yarn and just tie the shoulders up. And I'll let you know where I'm going to sew the shoulders. If we look at it here, you can see the straight edge, and then it starts to become the V-neck. And basically what I did was anything that was straight, let's see, so about to there, that is where I would sew it, because that's where the V finishes. From here to here is going to be sewn, and it's going to be sewn to the back, which is just there. If I just grab that, these two are going to be sewn together. You can crochet them together if you want to, but I found sewing was the neatest option for myself. But those two are going to be sewn, and this is going to create our shoulder. So when we try it on, our shoulder is going inside in there, and that's going to sit on our shoulder. So if you grabbed two pieces or two or three scrap pieces of yarn, just tie it like that, and that will give you some idea when you try it on. Again, it's up to you if you want to sew more. I wouldn't sew too much less, because when we create our neck, it has to sort of be smooth coming around like that. So that's why I sew it just to where the decreases are starting, which would be that shell there. Keep continuing on until you have your front section done. So you can see here that I've folded my front over. This is the front of my cardigan, and that's the back, and this is the armhole that we created. And I've just folded it over, as you can see. And this is how far across it comes. This is the middle of my granny square. So I'm like two rows short? About 2 rows short of being into the middle. Now I'm quite large in the chest area. I take a 10 double D or a 10E, so I'm not sure what that is conversion. Is it like the other size bra? But that's, I've got quite large chest for my frame. I'm a size 10 Australian ladies in the clothes, which I think is a size 6. If that's wrong, I will put it across the screen. So I do like a little bit more room in the front of my cardigan, so I'm only about, where's my tape measure? Here we go. Let's measure this one-handed. Here we go. Should be tricky. As you can see, I'm only about 2 inches short, so I'm going to put about 3 inches on my cardigan. That will overlap when it's folded like this, but because I've got to have a lot more room in the front, I need a little bit extra. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm finished. I ended up finishing, let me just have a look here where my yarn is. Crochet hook still attached. I have finished, I'm actually going to pull that out. I'm finished up the top here. This is the top of my cardigan. We can see our stitch marker there. So I'm at the top of my cardigan, and I'm just going to finish off there because I wasn't sure where I was up to. So, yep, that's me done. I have done in total 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 rows altogether from the beginning of our armhole. So it's 14 to the armhole, but don't forget you've got to include this. Oh, nice pants. They are not pajamas, people. This row here is the other row, but if you want to count it easily, the chain row counts as your first row, and then this is the second row. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is that what I said before? I hope so. I think I said 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 15 rows. So yeah, do you want me to measure that as well? Hang on. One-handed measuring again. Yep, and now I have to tape measure. Okay, so we're measuring. About 20 centimetres, so what's that? That's about 8 inches from armhole across. This would be across your chest to the front of the cardigan is about 8 inches. So now it's time to start the other side of our cardigan. Hi guys, I just wanted to hop on the video and say hello. And this really is the first time that I have crocheted since February of 2017. It's now, like I've said, the end of August. It's like the 22nd. And I cannot believe how much I missed it. I really can't. Before, when I was talking on the video, I had the biggest grin on my face, and I'm really trying not to cry right now. Yeah, so it's been like, I can't even add up. What is this? Like the 8th month now. It's been 5 months since I've sat in front of a video camera. There goes the crying thing. Yeah, and I've really missed it. I've really missed it. I'm going to put this in the end of the video because you really don't want to see this during the video. Wow. So yeah, welcome back. And I'll put a tissues warning or a crying warning before this part comes on. Wow. I've been really stressing myself out. I've been really stressing myself out about this and trying to get back into it. But with all the moving and things, and coming back to the area where my mum lives, it's a little bit sucky. Been away for almost 4 years, so it's a bit sucky. And next month mum's been gone 2 years, so I think I really needed that. Anyway, I'm sitting here in my most ugliest jumper with my crochet on my lap. It's literally mid-tutorial. So yeah, better get back into it and wipe these tears away because now it's finished and the release is over. And I feel so much better. Anyway, sorry about the tears, but it's real life. And that's how I feel, and I've really really felt that I needed to put that out there. Yeah. Anyway, I don't even know if this is the end of the video or not, but happy crochet if it is.